Hi, this is Helen Mitas, and we are going to have a chat with Mark Howell, who is a wonderful friend of mine and one of the very first friends that I had from the USA when I went over there a couple of years ago at the Heartland Hypnosis Conference. He was incredibly friendly and we just hit it off straight away. He was the first person that joined my Hypnosis Success Network mentoring program. So here he is. I'll just invite him. This time he can get on board. Let's just have a look. And inviting Mark now.
Hey.
Hey, yay! Hey, Mark.
Sorry about all the confusion. It's been a hectic week. So.
Oh, that's okay. That's all right. You're here now, and that's the main thing. And you know what? I'm so impressed with Facebook because usually when I invite a guest, the guest is only a little tiny little square at the very top, but you're actually taking up half the screen. So it's fantastic.
How about that?
How about that? So first of all, I'll just introduce you. The reason I'm doing this interview is basically because there's no ulterior motive. I'm just fascinated by your story. And so I met Mark Howell a couple of years ago in St. Louis at the Heartland Hypnosis Conference, and one of the friendliest, most welcoming faces there. And loved seeing Mark again when I went back this year actually. I went back this year to the Heartland Hypnosis Conference, and can't believe so much has happened since April. And just recently, Mark mentioned to me that he had a near-death experience and how that changed his life. And I thought, wow, everybody's got the most fascinating story, haven't they? And this is a really fascinating story. So, Mark, first of all, before we talk about that experience, let's just go back in time and tell everybody, where you were in your life before this experience, took place. So where you were and what was going on for you at the time in your life.
Well, it was a long time ago, let's put it that way. I was in my teenage years, and I was, as I told Helen before, I don't know if you can tell online or not, I'm not a big strapping guy. Growing up, I was rather small. And to give you an idea, in high school, I was 4.5 feet tall when I started high school, and I weighed less than 70 pounds. I was literally the smallest kid out of about 2,000 students.
Wow.
And even through junior high. So I was picked last. I took the jokes. I dealt with what would be classified bullying today. I guess I never thought of it that way, but that was life. And in trying to fit in, I decided to do what, I don't know, maybe make some poor choices. Fortunately, my hair was longer, considerably longer. It was darker than it is right now. And I got into being rather wild. I learned that being small, I could get away with anything. Nobody would hit me. Nobody would try to fight me. Even the girls would stand up for me if somebody tried to, be mean towards me. But I got involved in drugs. I mean, not necessarily intentionally, I don't think, but it was just kind of hanging with certain people and went, hey, and got into that, trying to fit in a little bit better. And
what kind of drug?
Well, some I don't know. As stupid as that sounds, I mean, I had no knowledge of that. Sorry, my watch is banging on my desk. So I got very attracted to marijuana for one, and then, like I said, some other things. I have no clue. They were there. Sometimes things would just be offered. And fortunately, those things didn't attract me a whole lot. I mean, on the pills and things that were out there, but there were blocks of time that I lost. That part of that scared me, but not enough to stop. And
How old were you How old were you?
How I was 14,
Really,
13, 14,
just really
and
young, really
yeah,
young.
quite young. And I was living a double life. I told you my dad was a deacon at the church, and I was at church every Sunday, every Wednesday night, and I was, the good little boy. I don't even think my friends were aware because I didn't do these things with my friends, my circle of friends. I had another group of friends that I would spend time with to be involved in these things.
Where did
And
you
so
find other friends, Mark? If they weren't your normal group of friends, where were they?
my normal friends,
No, no, these group of friends that you did associate with regards to the drugs, where were they from? Where did you meet these people?
they were from the same school. Our school was rather large. Like I said, my graduating class was 600 plus,
Wow.
and uh, so it's easy to get lost in the crowd. I mean, I run across people today and they go, "Oh, you went to?" And it's like, "Yeah," and we graduated together and had no clue because we wouldn't see each other. I mean, it was just that large of a group. So you could have multiple, lives in a sense, and nobody knew the better. At school, I didn't do any of these things. I never was involved with a group that they were called the burnouts, I guess, back at that particular time in history. And they would venture on down the hill and hang out in the woods and do those type of things. And I was never brave enough to do that. During school, my gosh, I'd never cut class. That's just not what you did.
Yeah.
But other times it was completely different. Um,
It's
and
it's interesting, Mark, you say that there were periods of time during that time that there were literally gaps in your memory. So what actually would happen so that it would lead to a gap in your memory? What kind of things would happen?
well, when you get under the influence of things, depending on the depth, I guess it is, or the level of how it's impacting your brain. It's a wonder I survived that part. I mean, there were times when I started out the day with a group of people, and then I would wake up, that night in bed, and
Wow.
had no recollection of the time frame that passed. And it bothered me a little bit, but it didn't, for whatever reason, didn't. And and I found belonging, in that particular group. I mean, it wasn't a 24/7 obviously type thing. It wasn't even 7 days a week. It was just, um, I think we all have some weaknesses in our life, and we don't know those until perhaps we hit that place,
Yeah.
and then afterwards we go, oh, I've got to stay away from that
Yeah.
because it's dangerous.
Okay. And so how long was this period of time going on for before we come to the big life-changing event? How long was that going on for?
It was probably about a year.
About a
Um, yeah,
Okay.
about a year, give or take.
Yeah.
And like I said, I wasn't heavily involved in things, at least in the sense of where I mean, if my parents were aware of it, I can't imagine they would have let me slide on it
Mm.
and went, oh, it's okay, it's okay. They probably were aware that I was, smoking at the time, cigarettes. And I think my dad was, at least. That's something you think you're hiding, but you're really not.
Mm. Okay.
Because, you know,
Exactly.
you
So
think it's covered up, but
you think it's covered up, but it's not. So tell me,
right.
so tell me the day that where you nearly died. What actually happened on that day?
Well, interestingly enough, it was not involved with these other people. I was on a church, a weekend youth retreat, I guess it was, and we had gone to a place not far from where I live. It's a lake called Wren Lake, which, as I see names popping up on the screen, these people are going to go, "Oh my gosh, they've never heard this either." At least some of them haven't. So we were at Wren Lake, and I mean, it's a popular spot till today for boating, camping, and those type of things. And we were at one end of the lake. I have no clue where. I didn't do drive, I was too young to drive or anything. And we kind of had the end of the lake all to ourselves, this one little spot. And a number of the people, our youth leader and some of the older kids, had gone swimming, and they swam across this little area. I don't know how far it was, maybe, I don't know, 50 yards. I don't know. It might not have been that far. And a friend of mine and I, we were with some other people, and we saw everyone had gone across there, and so we took off across that distance, not thinking about anything. I mean, you just swim. That's no big deal. And we both stopped, shy, which we thought we were close enough to the bank to touch bottom. And when the youth leader was in front of me, and I asked him if he could touch bottom, and he said no, he was actually treading water. And so I was treading water to the best of my ability. I'm not a strong swimmer. I wasn't then, and I still am not. And the friend behind me, same thing, was treading water. And then I realized I had nothing to push off of to get going again. I couldn't get my momentum back up to finish the swim. And I asked the individual if they could give me a hand, just pull me over or do something. And they said, sure. And now this is according to the individual that pulled me over. I haven't, again, in the panic, I only remember a few things from that particular event. That apparently one or both of us started to go down, and the friend of mine was going down as well, and he was grabbing my shoulders. He was right behind me, and we both began to flail. And for folks that tell you the advice, if someone's drowning, you're going to have to let them wear themselves out first, because they'll take you down.
Take you down. You.
Anything other than trying to stay above water. I remember that part of it somewhat, of the flailing and splashing and some of the yelling that was going on, because the individual, our youth leader, had called for some people to come and help. And the last thing I remember prior to regaining consciousness was blackness and this feeling of I said floating, but it was actually sinking. I felt like I was going down and eventually hit bottom. That's the last I remember of that part of the event. The next thing I regained consciousness was on a raft going back across the lake. They had obviously gotten us both back up again, and there was no place to try and do any resuscitation. I don't know if they did. I never asked. It was such a panic for everybody. They were just glad we were both alive.
Yeah.
And
that moment, Mark, when you said that you were like sinking, did you have any thoughts in your mind that this is the end?
No, not that I recall. It was an extremely peaceful event. I mean, at that point, it was sheer panic up to that point.
Yeah.
But after that, I don't know. I really don't know, other than I remember that sensation, but I was not panicked at the time. It didn't scare me. I don't know if it should or not. I really have no clue. But it was, afterwards it sure did.
Yeah.
But up to that point, hey, I mean, it didn't dawn on me at the time. I wasn't thinking of what was going on. I mean, I remember, sucking in water. I remember, flailing around trying to save myself. I really was not concerned about anybody else at the time. My apologies to my friend if he's watching this. But
he wasn't concerned about you either.
Right. Neither of us were concerned about anybody. It was get out of the water as best as possible, and but by the grace of God, that someone was there that was able to get us out, and someone had a raft. Otherwise, I still don't know what would have happened. Someone had one of those little blow up air mattresses that we were both lying on, and like I said, I was going back across the water when I regained consciousness, and it set me back. One, it was physically exhausting, the event. Emotionally, it sent me to a place of thinking. All the things that had gone on in the last year, as far as my life that I was living.
When did those thoughts come, Mark? So, you said that physically it was exhausting, and then it started the process of you thinking where you were in your life. Was that the next morning, or was that 5 minutes after they rescued you? When was that?
That was probably within the next half hour or so.
Really?
I was sitting it was really soon, yes. Sitting on the bank, watching others. They were back in the water swimming again. And it took me a little while to get my nerve back up, even to wander back into the water. But I began just thinking about that. I mean, what would have happened, had I not survived. My sister was with us on the trip. All my friends from church were there. The people I went to school with, folks that had watched me grow up at church, as far as the youth leader is concerned, and some of the other adults that were there. And I'm trying to compose myself. The thought of my family, my parents, not alive and well, over something that should have been an innocent, carefree weekend away. But then again, that's how most people die, isn't it? It's not. I didn't go out and plan to drown. I didn't go out with the intent of doing any of these things in my life, at least not consciously. And I realized something had to change. So I began to do some soul searching. I mean, you're 14 years old and you realize you're not invincible.
Wow. What a huge realization at 14. It's incredible.
Right. It really, as I look back, at the time you kind of blow it off in one sense and go, because we didn't want to, go back at church and go, well, hey, we almost lost 2 of the kids because they almost drowned, literally almost drowned. That could throw a whole wrench in the whole youth program type thing, and cast doubts upon the leaders. It wasn't their fault by any means. It was my choice to swim across there. Nobody forced me to, said, hey, you need to, or any of those type of things. But it definitely was a turning point, in the sense that I realized that, I'd shared with you before, just in junior high, a person I went to school with, I'd gone to grade school with. I didn't know him that particularly well, but he had died of leukemia in 8th grade, I think. Boy, this is bringing back a whole bunch of stuff, Ellen, emotion-wise. But his name was Steve, and I remember going to the funeral home to the visitation and seeing him laid out, and I'd seen other people laid out from being involved in. Folks from church had passed, and grandparents, one set of grandparents at least, but I was pretty young then. But part of that begins to make you wonder, in one sense. But we're then thinking it could have been me, at the same time, after this event, that I could have been the one, me being a pastor now, and have shared with, not necessarily at the funerals, sometimes depending, that one of these days we'll all be at that point. We'll be the person at the front, and folks will be coming to pay their respects. Hopefully it's later than sooner for any of us.
So Mark, you back to that soul-searching moment where you were reflecting back on your previous year, and what were the thoughts that were going through your head at that point?
I think the main thing was kind of that question of, why am I here? What's my purpose? Because obviously, if just living life this way is what life is about, it seems actually kind of wasteful. Simply just going and doing things. And Maybe that's not a great explanation of it, but just living life thinking that it's about doing it for yourself and realizing that uh, doing things just for yourself can actually end up not well, for one. But there's got to be something bigger to this. I don't believe we're here by accident. I think we all have a purpose. And I know some are still searching for that. And on some levels, I still am. There's other things I'm still, I feel there's a desire to do, or I've got greater things yet to accomplish. I don't know what those are yet, but at that particular time at 14, it dawned on me that there's got to be something better than this as far as that goes. And within 2 years, I guess I was 14 at the time. At 16, I felt the call to the ministry. And again, nobody coerced me into that. My pastor didn't come and say, as a matter of fact, I don't think he was aware of this event at that. Go into ministry and do this, or this. My parents, no one had any input in that as far as that influence goes. It was just a matter of searching and I felt led that direction in going to the ministry. I began to preach at the age of 16. My pastor was very generous in allowing me to develop that skill set, and
Wow.
that was a growing experience as well. I mean, there's been several of those major events in a sense for me that have gone through life, but to me, each of those things should be a learning event, not just whoo, glad I made it. Dodged a bullet that time and hope next time we're a little better. It should be a time of introspection, a time of taking some inventory and realizing that tomorrow's not a guarantee, but today we can impact people's lives for the better, hopefully, if we're more aware of the opportunities that are there.
It's fascinating to me, Mark, that you had that realization so early. Even though it was a huge event and a life-changing event, it still fascinates me that at the age of 14, you can take that, you can be so reflective about, how your life needs to change and what's the purpose of your life. I mean, that's a huge question for a 14-year-old to ask himself. Massive.
Well, that might be partly because of my parents. I mean, my dad, who was always smaller than me. At least once as I finally grew, I hit my growth spurt and I made it to 5'8". Yes, yeah, big guy. My dad was probably 5'5", 5'6" maybe, and always I think in his heyday, top weight was 125 pounds when he was in the military, and he growing up, he would always tell me, because you're smaller, you're going to have to try harder. You're going to have to show yourself that you can do whatever, play sports, hold your own, those type of things. And he didn't encourage me to go out and get in fights or stir up trouble or, try to prove myself. Just that when the opportunity is there, you need to take advantage of it. I lost my dad in 2011. So talking about him is still a little tough at times, but when you go out, always be dressed nice. Just these little things he taught, make sure there's $1 in your pocket, which back then $1 actually could do something.
Yeah.
Treat people with respect. And, he was always about helping people in a quiet way. He never made a show of it, but took me along to show me how to do that, and
beautiful role model, and what amazing values, and full credit to him, because look what's happened with you. Amazing human being. So
well, I don't know about that, but sorry, I'm tearing up here, but if he could see me now, because he had Alzheimer's, so he didn't even know me the last few years of his life, but it happened that way. So
he can see you now, and you know that.
Well, I'm hoping that he's at least aware that things are well.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what beautiful values that he actually passed on to you about, you know, I love the fact that he was saying to you, you know, you've got to put that extra effort. You've got to do the extra bit. And, you know, you've got to have self-care and dress well and, you know, be kind to others and so on. But it still amazes me as to, you know, what you're doing now and the work that you're doing as a minister. Is that how you are a minister, not a pastor?
Yeah.
Yeah, the same. And
Church for
it was
20,
all because of, you know, that
I
massive
think
turning
26
point.
years.
Yeah. And that huge, you know, event that happened when you were 14. So really it was a blessing. So the time when you drowned when you were 14 was such a blessing for it to come so early in your life as well.
Right. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but, you know, find your passion without hopefully a life-threatening event. But quite often it seems to take those type of things to shake us to our core and begin to ask the questions and, you know, do some serious soul searching to find out, you know, like I shared with you before, because I thought who'd want to hear this anyway, but you thought it was quite fascinating, so I'm touched by that. That I just lost that thought really quickly, but you know that these things happen. I guess for a reason. You know, people say everything happens for a reason. Sometimes it's because we made bad choices. Sometimes there's actually a purpose behind it. So you know, it was truly life changing at that, you know, that particular moment in time, and I can look back and be thankful for that because I just recall what I was trying to say there was that I realized it too at that point because you'd asked me what I was thinking as I was drifting down or whatever when I was losing consciousness. That I really found out I wasn't afraid to die. And that might have upset some people in the sense I can't believe that, but you know, I'm not anxious for the time to come, but it doesn't scare me. And my faith, what I believe, you know, was tested at that time, and to me found to be true for me that I don't have to fear death. And so I might as well make the most of my opportunities now, and hopefully help other people to realize that too, that it's not about us. I mean, individually and what we can have or own or amass. Or I know some people are very wealthy and they're miserable.
Of course.
You know, and I know some people that don't have two nickels to rub together and they're some of the happiest folks on the planet.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to be somewhere in between, you know, yeah. But I'd rather have happiness and health over everything else when it comes down to it. And, yeah. You know, hopefully I can help other people find the same.
Beautiful. You know, Mark, I just want to thank you for being so honest and for, you know, you could have not shared everything, but you did. You chose to share everything about your whole experience. I so appreciate that. And of course, it's a fascinating story. It's interesting that when you just said that, you know, this all started because you just wrote a random comment in response to something I wrote and said, oh, yeah, because of my near-death experience. I went, what?
Right.
What? You need to tell me this. And you said, oh, I said, I want other people to hear it too. And you said, well, I don't think it's that interesting, but let's find out. And it really is. And it's a touching story. It's a beautiful story. And yeah, it is a blessing that you found out so much about yourself so early on, you know, so early on. And we continue to find out about ourselves as we move on. And thank you so much for sharing your beautiful story and, you know, continue shining your light. And I can't wait to see you when I get back to the States. I'm leaving in a week. So
I was going to say it's a few weeks. Yeah, I signed up for the training, so I will be over there in St. Louis.
2-day training. Are you also going to Boston or not?
No,
not doing Boston. Okay, so I'll be in Boston first, and then we're going to be driving to St. Louis. Yeah. So look forward to seeing
Right.
you in St. Louis. I can't wait, Mark. And thank you so much for sharing your beautiful story. It's just fascinating how, you know, like you said, by the grace of God, an event changes your entire life and your entire journey and exactly what you're doing at the moment. So thank you so much.
Oh, thanks, Helen. Like I said, I don't think it's that great of a thing, but I guess because it's, it's just a personal thing.
Yeah.
Um, but sometime I'll tell you more of
Okay.
other things. But for
I'll
now, I
hold you to
appreciate
that.
the opportunity to share, and I
Okay.
hope it's moved somebody to take some action.
Yeah. To do something with their life and grasp life and do something with it, do something positive with it.
Oh, right, right. Definitely, definitely. You never know whose life you might touch.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Mark. That's beautiful. Have a good
Thank,
day.
thank you
Okay.
too. Bye.
See ya. Bye.